Hey guys, it's Fletch. Welcome back to Fletch Does It. Today I wanted to tell you a story about something that happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. No, but seriously, I have an amusing story to share with you. Stick around, we'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back. So once upon a time, I was the quote-unquote resident deputy of a one-horse town. And basically what that means is the city that was in the county that I was a sheriff's deputy of contracted through the county to provide law enforcement services to that city. And so I was the quote-unquote resident deputy. And lo and behold, one day I was, as they call the slang or whatever, running traffic. This particular town, the way that it was set up, you had two halves of the town and the state highway ran right down between it. And so, during school time, the kids would have to pass from one side to the other to get to and from school. And so, as you might imagine, many of the parents were very concerned about the amount of traffic and how fast that they were passing through the area. A lot of the expectation of my duties as the resident deputy of that town was, as they call, running traffic and making sure that people were slowing down, respecting the sidewalks, different things like that. Long story short, on this particular day, a very nice, newer looking Corvette came blazing through town and through my quote unquote speed trap. And yeah, it is what it is. I don't remember anymore. It's, exactly what it was, but it was significant. Maybe like 20 miles an hour over or something like that. It was significant. I, turn on my lights, overhead lights, and chase the Corvette down. We get out to the edge of town, pull up behind them, do all the, check in with my dispatch and all that. And I walk up to the car. As I remember it, the driver didn't even have the window down. And so, of course I had to, motion for them to turn the window down. And this guy is just, clearly upset. And, for whatever reason, just life circumstances, whatever. Typically, I'm pretty good judge of character. I have been wrong a time or two here and there, but by and large, if I get that, there's an old school saying that goes something along the lines of hinky or something like that. Your gut feeling, your initial reaction, whatever you want to call it. So, guys, this is a good story. You're going to want to hear the end of this. It doesn't make me look good either. Honestly, it doesn't. But it's a good story. It's like, hi, my name is Deputy so-and-so. I'm with the so-and-so Sheriff's Department. The reason why I pulled you over today is you're going, like 20 over in this school zone. And, this is a pretty serious offense, and I'm definitely going to need to see your driver's license, proof of registration, and all the particular stuff. And so it takes a minute, for the guy to get everything together and reading his body language and the way he's reacting, like slam the glove box shut, the center console, stuff like that. All the little cues you start to pick up on over time. And guys, I'll also tell you just kind of a generalized rule anyways. When I went through the police academy, what they taught us was that you should make up your mind before you get to the car whether the reason why you're pulling them over for is egregious enough that you're going to write them a ticket no matter what. Now, obviously there's an exception to every rule, but by and large, right? And so, and the reason why is because you don't want to be making emotional, illogical decisions whilst you're on the job, so to speak. So anyways, the point in bringing that last part out was don't be a jerk to cops. And yes, guys, I get it. I know that there are cops out there that are not good cops, and they're jerks, and they're hard to deal with, and the whole 9 yards. But especially if you're in like the Mountain West or some small podunk town somewhere, most of the law enforcement officers, be they state patrol, sheriff's deputies, or city officers, generally speaking, are good people because they have to live in the community with the people that they're patrolling. And so, by and large, and yes, I understand there's an exception to every rule, but by and large, those are good people. Anyways, I'm at the car, and the drivers clearly got an attitude, and like I said, he's like slamming things around, exhaling over exaggeratedly heavy different things like that. And so finally, he gets everything together, and he hands it to me, just as something that a lot of times cops you learn you have to do is you don't leave the driver's door until you check out the documents that they gave you, and here's why. Attached to the back of his driver's license was a quarter folded, like, someone had taken like a brand new, I don't remember if it was a 50 or 100. I think it was 100. It could have been a 50 though. Honestly, I don't remember that detail. Folded into quarters and, like maybe even steamed or, I don't know. But, or it had just been in the position that it was in for so long. The reason why this is an issue and the reason why this happens is because what they're hoping that the law enforcement officer will do is take that cash and then just give them a warning rather than writing them a citation that they probably deserved. And sure enough, in this instance, so like what happens is they take the bill and they put a little dab of rubber cement on the back of it, and they stick that on the back of the driver's license, and then they let it set up. And so it could be peeled off easily without damaging the bill or the driver's license. Being the good law-abiding citizen I am, just in general, on top of that, being a law enforcement officer, I immediately noticed that. And as I was walking back to my car, so I immediately walked back and I was like, hey, I'm sure this was an honest mistake. Here's your rabbit hole. And for those of you that don't know, that's an old school term that older people use, and it's a way to keep an emergency fund on your person, but you typically hide it in your wallet somewhere. So if someone finds your wallet, and or if you get held up or whatever, and you open your wallet, there's no sign there's a cash in there, but somewhere buried deep in your wallet, you've got $100 bill or a 50 or something like that, just in case, so to speak. So anyways, I hand it back to the guy. He's not happy about it. He's like, are you sure that's what you want to do? And I'm like, dude, I don't have any idea what you're talking about, but, I'll be back with you in just a minute. So I go back to my car, and like I said, I'd already made up my mind that I was going to write this gentleman, and I use that term lightly, but I'd already made up my mind that I was going to write this person a ticket because there's 20 over in a school zone. If you're not aware, fine citations in the school zones automatically double in a lot of states. So when I wrote the citation, this became a sizable citation. Now I explained everything. It's like, hey, here's and I don't think I wrote it for the whole thing either. I think he was going, like 23 over or something like that. And I only wrote it for 20 because if I would have wrote it for 23, it would have been like another $50 or something like that, because it's kind of a graduated scale. The faster you're going, the quicker the penalty or the fine increases. And so I explained it, and as the old saying goes, it was a whopper. It was a pretty big citation, probably $200 or something like that. And so this guy like goes off on me, starts reading me the riot act, so to speak, and just being a total Delta Bravo, if you know what I'm saying. And that's phonetic alphabet. And I'm like, well, sir, if you disagree with this, you're well within your rights to do this, whatever. And he's like, well, I'm from this neighboring state, and it's not like I'm going to be here, whatever. And this is BS, but he's using the real words, stuff like that. So I was like, well, sir, yes, you were indeed, going 23, 25 over, whatever it was. And I said, but I only wrote this ticket for 20. And so I'm giving you a break, because if I would have wrote for this, it would have been another $50 or whatever. And of course, as soon as I told him that, that really pissed him off. And he was like, oh, this is BS. And, all these little towns here in this state, blah, 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 blah. And so I was trying to be nice. And I was like, well, sir, you need to understand that even though this is a small, quote unquote, one horse town in the middle of nowhere, there are families here and parents who love their children. You drove through the school zone going entirely too fast. And I'm sorry, but there's a consequence for that. And that consequence is this citation. He's like, well, I ain't signing it. And I was like, well, sir, legally you're required to sign this citation. And the guy's like, I ain't signing it. I was like, well, sir, you need to understand that because you're from out of state and the state law in this state requires you to sign that citation. And if you don't sign that citation, at that point, about my only recourse is to arrest you and hold you until you have a chance to appear before the magistrate here in this little one horse town. Of course, and that really pissed him off. So, this guy is not being nice, just totally being a jerk, doing and saying, and, the body language, different things like we were talking about before, slamming things, exhaling, over exaggeratedly loud, different things like that. And so finally I was just like, sir, I'm sorry, but at this point, the ball's in your court. You need to make a decision. Either you sign the citation, which is not an admission of guilt. It just says that you're either going to show up in court on, whatever the date was, or that you're going to pay the citation, one or the other. And he just sat there for a minute, didn't say anything, and it was like the old, when you're trying to close a sale and you ask for the sale and the first person that talks loses. Yeah, it felt kind of like that. So the guy finally signs the citation. Ruined my day, probably ruined his too, but it ruined mine, because like I said, most law enforcement officers in these small rural counties are good and decent people. And yes, again, for the second or third time now, guys, I realize that not every place is like that, but by and large, in my opinion, that is more so the norm than the exception. The exception is, you've got some small town cop or deputy or whatever that is not a good person. But that's not what we're talking about. That's not where we're at with this particular instance. And so, just as life circumstances would bring it about, a year or two, and I don't remember exactly how long later it was, but I had made the decision to get out of law enforcement for the time being and move to a different state and, just to kind of relocate and start over. I couldn't make an exact jump, so to speak, into law enforcement again in this neighboring state. And so I was looking for employment just to kind of get me by. And so I see there's an ad in the paper at this local car dealership. And my dad was a salesperson for a lot of years, so he taught me a lot of what he knew. And he used to be a car dealer, a car salesperson as well, GMAC, master car salesman. And he taught me a lot about that process as well. So I show up for an interview and, I'm dressed properly, looking sharp. And whoever the person, the receptionist, whatever, is like, hey, yeah, just there's an office over there and you just go have a seat in that office and the general manager will be with you shortly. So finally this guy comes in, he sits down, we both look at each other like, he's looking at me like, oh, I think I know you. And I'm looking at him like, yeah, I definitely know you. I can't place you right now, and he looks at it and he's looking at my resume and he was like, oh, so you were the sheriff's deputy of this one horse town during this time. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh. And he's like, so you're the one that wrote me the ticket. what are the odds, right? It's like maybe 2 years later, something like that. I'm here in this guy's dealership. I don't know if he's the owner or just the general manager or whatever, but anyways. And so he interviews me, and I'm thinking that I'm probably not going to get this job, but it's a good experience, whatever. So I played along. So we get done, and the guy says, "Okay, well, what I'd like you to do is just hang tight here for a minute. I got some stuff I need to take care of. I'll be back with you shortly." And so I see him walk out, and he starts talking to someone who I would guess by their age and their demeanor, how they carried themselves, is probably the sales manager or something like that. And I see him, point to me, and they're, yucking it up, having a good laugh or whatever. And at that point, I got like this pit in my stomach, this uneasy feeling that something's bad here. Something's not going the way that it should. So I'm sitting there, and the office had all glass walls to it, so I could see everything that was going on, and they could see me, for that matter. The guy walks out of the dealership, gets in his car, and drives off. And so I'm thinking, well, I guess the sales manager or the owner or someone else is going to come talk to me. And so I waited, I don't know, a good 5 or 10 minutes, and finally I was like, oh, okay. I get this now. So this was his way of getting even with me, right? And so, yeah, the guy just left me sitting there without saying anything, clearly no intention in hiring me or anything. This dude, in my opinion, it's kind of one of those things, once a DB, always a DB, right? Delta Bravo, DB. And yeah, that was his way of getting even with me, and it's like, talk about a passive aggressive soft dude, man. Rather than just, having a man-to-man conversation with me about, hey, I didn't appreciate that day when you wrote me that ticket, whatever. I was having a bad day. You ruined my day, whatever, I'm angry and upset with you. Oh, no, we got to do the passive-aggressive thing by telling everyone that, oh, yeah, that's the a-hole cop that wrote me a ticket 2 years ago in that little one-horse town. And now he's sitting in my office wanting a job for me. Ha ha. So, like I said, after about 5 or 10 minutes, I got up and walked out, and, never called them back, never heard from them again, nothing. Nor should I, that wasn't my expectation. But so the point is sharing this story with you guys is, trust your instincts. When someone is giving off that DB vibe, Delta Bravo DB vibe, it's generally right. It's generally for a reason. In my opinion, that's DB-ery, so to speak. I was telling a friend that story the other day. It reminded me of, oh yeah, well, that's a good story that I could tell. And people might get a good laugh out of it. Some entertainment value at my expense. The same guy that I wrote a ticket to, 2 years later, I'm at his dealership looking for a job. And, he gets to passive aggressively leave me sitting there after telling everyone, what was going on or whatever. So just remember, generally speaking, when you get that vibe from someone that they're just a DB, it's usually for a reason. Thanks for joining me today, guys. I hope you're having a great day. And as always, until next time, we'll see you then.